chess friends, I hope you're doing well. Today, I played against Magnus Carlsen, using the new version of Stockfish 17, rated 4050 Elo. This game is both marvelous and miraculous because I completely destroyed Magnus Carlsen's kingside. It was a blitz chess game, and Magnus played against me. Stay tuned until the end of the video, as this game is absolutely mind-blowing. So, let's get started without wasting any time. I began the game with d4, and Magnus casually responded with knight f6 and c5. Entering the Benoni variation, after a few moves, we reached d6, which is called the a66 Benoni system, where bishop g7 leads to short castling. Moves like knight to d7 and bishop f5 are also possible. A few moves later, I played f4. If I have the chance to play f4, why not? I'll just push my pawns forward. Here, Magnus made an inaccurate move with e6. Didn't he notice that the pawn wasn't guarded by the bishop because the knight was blocking it? So, I simply captured the pawn, forcing his rook to recapture. After a few more moves, I moved my rook to a2 to get access to the e2 or f2 squares. Eventually, I could even consider playing g4 or h4 to get my rooks on this line, potentially hacking his computer and forcing him to resign the game. I would win easily. You can observe how my bishops are attacking Magnus Carlsen's kingside. Knight to g5 can also arrive to put pressure on his pieces, and once I play f5, my rooks will get the open file. After bishop e7, I played rook e2. A few moves later, we were maneuvering our pieces, and I finally played knight d5. Here, Magnus got angry and captured my knight. Not wanting to keep the position stagnant, I didn't capture his bishop with my e-pawn but instead with my c-pawn. A few moves later, I played g4. As I mentioned earlier, if I get the chance to play g4, I'll take it because I'm not afraid of anyone, except my future version. There's no chess player in the world who can beat me right now. I then played e5, and after some exchanges, you can see that my pawn is well guarded and ready to march to become a queen. Meanwhile, Magnus sacrificed his knight by capturing the g4 pawn. This was a pawn sacrifice. Everyone has to sacrifice something to gain more. I played e6. After pawn takes e6, I played queen h4, attacking the knight. Magnus's knight is now paralyzed. Where can it go? If he tries to move the knight back to f6, the position will be vulnerable. After d takes e6, and the knight moves back, e7 will happen. A couple of moves ago, the d7 knight became useless, just like a useless brain. The knight had to retreat to f8. After e7 and knight d7, I played queen c4 check. As the queen moved, I played knight g5, adding more pressure to the position. After h6, I played knight f7 check, forcing the king to move. And I sacrificed my bishop. After rook g2, the king had to retreat, and I captured the pawn on h6, threatening the bishop on g7. Magnus would become frustrated by this, and if he captures my bishop, queen d3 check would arrive, leading to checkmate in one move. But don't worry when Stockfish is here. Let me provide you a powerful life quote. Surround yourself with the dreamers and the doers, the believers and thinkers, but most of all, surround yourself with those who see the greatness within you, even when you don't see it yourself. Returning to the position, we realized that the knight couldn't go to f6 due to the queen's attack. When Magnus played knight e5, I responded with knight g5, attacking the pawn on h7. Many players might consider knight f6, but that would be a bad move. I could sacrifice my rook, and after the capture, play queen takes f7 check. After the king moves, rook f2 would arrive, attacking the bishop. Queen f7 check could follow, and the knight on e5 would be forced to protect f7, leaving no other options. The position would become very challenging for Magnus. After h6, knight f7 check attacked the pawn. My rook was doing a great job, and many players noticed that my bishop on d3 was under attack. Magnus, greedy for the bishop, captured it, trying to reduce the attacks on his position. However, he didn't realize that I still had another bishop on the board, which captured the pawn on h6. seeking revenge on the king for killing its brother bishop. Magnus couldn't capture my bishop right away because after a check, my rook would dominate the open file, leading to checkmate after a few moves. Returning to the position, Magnus played bishop d4 check, forcing my bishop to retreat. After a series of moves, I captured the pawn. Here, Magnus couldn't capture the pawn on e6 because I would retreat my knight to g5, creating an attack that would lead to checkmate on h7. At the same time, the rook on e6 would be under pressure. Returning to the position, after Magnus moved his queen, I played a knight check. After some exchanges, I played rook f7, although I couldn't checkmate Magnus on h7, since the knight was protecting that square. Magnus tried holding on by giving a queen check. Finally, I played e7, putting pressure on the knight, and Magnus Carlsen resigned. He had no other options. He played well, but this position was too much to endure. If Magnus had captured the pawn with his rook, I would have captured his knight and then picked up his rook on the next move. Going back to the position, capturing the pawn would have been a terrible decision, as Magnus Carlsen designed the game. If black plays queen g4 check, which is actually the best move, and after the queen is exchanged for the rook, you can see that I will promote to a new rook. Subsequently, this position is completely winning for me. I will pick up the pawn, and at the end of the day, I will capture the rook. This leaves a rook and knight versus a queen and my last pawn. Go, my last pawn, you are my last hope. Eventually, you will see that I will capture all your pawns, as well as your knight and rook, and finally checkmate you. I hope you enjoyed the game. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Wishing you all the best. Bye bye, take care and see you soon.